Hello and welcome back to Conscious Educators. I'm Nicholas Winter-simat. Today I want to talk about education towards anti-fragile development in young people. I know that's a funny word. Normally we would say resilience or resilient development in young people, but there's a key difference between resilience and anti-fragility. Now, Nassim Nicholas Taleb, about 10 years ago, popularized this term anti-fragile in his book titled AntiFragile. He talks about how in the English language there's a missing term for anti-fragile. We talk about things that are fragile, like a wine glass or something. When there's stress or change, it breaks. We talk about a stone or a brick or something that's really strong and resistant to change, and it doesn't break so easily. But then on the other side over here, this missing term that he calls anti-fragile is things that, what he says, gain from disorder. A certain level of stressors make them actually respond to be more than they were before, to thrive. This is the category of life. Life responds to stressors and change and becomes more than it was, becomes not just resilient, but becomes stronger, better, different. It changes and responds. And I would say our immune systems are a great example of that. If our immune systems are never tested or used, they actually become weak and we become quite susceptible to disease. So all of life is anti-fragile. And I think that our psychology can become fragile if we don't practice good mental health over time, if we don't respond in positive ways of growth. So how do we apply this in education? Because the world is rapidly changing and there's all kinds of change, stressors, chaos that comes into people's lives as well as our lives globally. I think that resisting change or adapting to change are actually both unhealthy options. I think that training an anti-fragile mind or psychology actually grows and becomes more healthy, more integrated because of these stressors, rather than resisting change, rather than just adapting to. Some people have called this a growth mindset, where when things come up, it's an opportunity to grow and become more whole, healthier, integrated self, rather than becoming damaged or resistant. I think this is crucially important at this point in history, that we as humans become more anti-fragile in ourselves, in our psychologies, and education has a key role in this. In one of the previous videos, we talked about exposure to different environments, cultures, ways of doing things as central to transformative learning. And I think we could bring this concept of anti-fragile into that. When young people are exposed to things that are traumatic or different or uncomfortable, what tools do they have in their toolbox of how to respond to that? Do they resist it and shut it out as wrong and bad? Do they just adapt to that new situation, just floating where the current takes them? Or do they have the mental capacity or tools or ability to look at it for what it is without judgment and decide what's a healthy way to respond to this? How can I grow through this situation? How can I become a healthier version of myself because of this? I would say that's an anti-fragile mindset. And we can only see that in the young people we work with if we model that ourselves. And that's where teaching becomes mentoring by just being with. They need to see us model that kind of mental flexibility, that kind of growth in adversity and in difficulty. So thanks for joining me, and I hope that you will find some opportunities to practice this with your kids, with people you work with, friends, students. When you see that opportunity for a growth mindset, for change and becoming a better version of yourself rather than opposing or just adapting to. I'll see you next time.